mtu pale ambaye nimemweka kwa sababu yeyote. Kama tutakubaliana ya kwamba Public Service Commission haifai kutoa mtu, ama political parties haifai kutoa mtu, tubadilishe sheria. Museme mnataka nani atoe huyo mtu mwenye atakuwa katika hiyo panel. Me, I have no problem. I have no interest. I did not select even one person. The list was brought to me. Mimi nikakuja tu nikatia sahihi, nikasema LSK walilete mtu wao, interreligious walilete mtu wao, political parties walilete watu wao, Parliamentary Service Commission walilete watu wao, public service mimi hakuna mtu ambaye anasema anachaguliwa na rais kwa hiyo jopo. So mimi nikawaambia sheria ndio inasema, mkibadilisha sheria mtafute mbinu mpya mniletee, mimi nitakubali. Yes.
Bwana Rais, Mheshimiwa Rais, napenda kurudisha kwa kimombo just a minute before my colleague goes ahead with that question. In relation to that, to what Lofty has asked about, you know, the demonstrations and that period before you had an agreement with the former PM, Article 37 of the Constitution talks about the right to picket. Your Interior CS, Professor Kithure Kindiki, indicated that you're considering to make some changes to that law. Don't you think from where you sit that is going to take us back to the dark days?
I don't think you can take away the right of any citizen to picket. It's not possible. Yeah? But we can all agree the way in which it is done. We can all agree. Other countries have dedicated a street where people can picket from morning up to evening. You go, I was in Brussels. There is a street there where people are permanently there. Huyu anasema yake, akona malalamiko sijui ya nini, ule mwingine anasema malalamiko ya nini. Na iko media hapo, unasikizwa yako, inachukuliwa na media, inasikizwa ya ule. So, dunia inaendelea bila ya kusumbua wale watu wengine wengi. Kuna mahali imetengwa hapo ya watu kusema hiyo maneno. Ni sawa. So, tunaweza kukubaliana. Ile ambayo mimi ninaona haifai, ndugu zangu, ni kutumia picketing kuzusha ghasia na fujo na vita, kuharibu mali ya wananchi. Nobody has any right, my good friend. Nobody has a right. Hata kama biashara ni ya mama mboga hapo, unaenda unakanyaga mboga yake. Wameenda sijui pale hapo Kisumu, jamaa moja wameenda wakakula viti yake kwa restaurant yake, ule jamaa alikuwa analia machozi hapo nje. Wameenda sijui supermarket nyingine hapo Utawala, ama ilikuwa ni wapi pale Mbakasi, wameloot. That's not picketing. That's criminality. And those hiyo maandamano yote si kuona any peaceful maandamano, ilikuwa ni fujo, vita, ghasia nini. So it's not working. So we need to agree, you know, the right to picket must be protected.
Okay.
But the how is important.
Mheshimiwa Rais, vijana, mashabiki wa spoti na vile vile wachezaji wanasema tusiwasahau katika mazungumzo ya siku ya leo. Michezo inaleta jamii pamoja. Hili umekuwa katika derby ya mashemeji, na jana ulikuwa katika mashindano ya Keep Keno Classic uwanjani Kasarani. Serikali yako inafanya nini kuhusu kuinua talanta na vile vile ujenzi wa viwanja?
Kesho kwa mfano nitapokea habari ya ile commitment nilifanya kwa watu wa Kenya ya kwamba nitaweka umuhimu katika mambo ya michezo katika taifa letu la Kenya. Nilisema tutajaribu kuhost Africa Cup in 2027. We are launching our bid on Wednesday, right? I was part of the people who came up with the sports fund because we wanted to reward, we wanted to create, because we have talent in Kenya. We have arts, we have the creatives, we have the sports talent in Kenya. We wanted to find a mechanism of promoting. That is why mimi nimelaumiwa sana. Wewe ulisema nini? Stadium. Wewe ulisema stadium. Sasa mtaniuliza mambo ya stadium na nitawajibu because I am now in charge.
Tupe jibu.
Na niko na mpango, nimemwambia Babu na Mwamba atengeneze master plan. You will see a big difference.
Okay.
Yeah? And already we are doing something about our stadia, right? So we are going to invest in the infrastructure. We are also going to invest in the training. We are also going to invest in the positive profiling of sports. When I came into office, the first thing I did, I told Babu na Mwamba, enda mpaka utafute watu wa FIFA mahali waliko. We cannot continue to have our country banned by FIFA. And within 4 months, ban yenye ilikuwa hapa for 2 years, we removed it. Today, we have come back. I also told Babu na Mwamba, we were almost being banned, mambo ya athletics, kwa sababu ya mambo ya doping. We have invested $5 million, almost 600 million shillings, to make sure that we have the ecosystem to test our athletes. I think they do it now almost every week, to make sure that doping is not part of our sports. So I am very clear on where I want to take sports. In fact, you heard me announce that we are going to have a bottom-up tournament from the world. Yenye tutafanya finals tarehe 12 December, because we want to grow sports. I have also said, Abdi, that how do we positively profile, kwa sababu watu walikuwa wametoroka hata kwenda kiwanjani. Yeah? So I am now going to work with KBC. I am going to talk to CA. I am going to talk to various sponsors, so that we bring back the televising of all our sports, of our tournaments, of our league, and provide additional resources, so that we create the unity, as my good brother here has said.
All right.
Sports brings us together.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. And allow me to take you back to the event in Nyandarua County yesterday. You were deputy.
We were talking about taxes.
Okay, of course we did.
Yes.
And
not about taxes
in relation to that.
Okay.
Because it's still about running of a government.
Yes.
Your deputy is on record in equating Kenya to a shareholding company. Yesterday he talked about state appointments, and he talked about it while you were there. I don't want to quote him verbatim. In regards to state appointments that you make as the commander-in-chief and the symbol of national unity, is it a right for others and a privilege for the rest, yet your government expects all Kenyans to pay taxes?
It is a right for every Kenyan.
What do you say about the sentiment by your deputy?
My deputy is a very eloquent person.
It doesn't matter the eloquence.
I suggest...
Is Kenya a shareholding company?
I suggest you go and ask him those questions.
Okay.
He's a very capable Kenyan.
All right. It's straightforward question.
And I am sure he will not shy away.
Okay.
He knows how to handle those questions.
And
but I can give you my commitment.
Mr. President, let me just pause you. You will proceed. I'll give you the time. You'll answer me.
Okay.
Allow me to ask you the
question. Okay, Abdi.
The presidency is a symbol of national unity.
Correct.
You all represent us, isn't it?
Absolutely.
What's your view? Is Kenya a shareholding company, or as the Constitution establishes, a secular state where we are all equal before the law?
All Kenyans are equal before the law. When it comes to political appointments, right? Everywhere in the world, there are certain considerations you make. There are people who support you, and they have legitimate expectation. That's why they support you. So, when you're making those appointments, you have to consider national balance. You have also to consider your support base. It happens everywhere. Let me tell you, some people take it to the extreme. You can never accuse me or this administration that I have taken my daughter or my son or my relative and made them an MP or made them a minister or made them something. I will not do that. Yeah? I will not do that. Our competitors do that. They go take their children, they take them here, they take them there, they take them... That I will not do. Because I understand where I am coming from. Right? Let me also tell you the following. sometimes, because of our, obsession, allow me to use that word, it's a bit negative, because we are too much interested in this tribe, this guy is this tribe, this guy is this tribe, this guy is this tribe. We get too absorbed in tribe identity, identity politics. It's time we transited from identity politics into politics of interest. Abdi, the 36,000 housing units that I have launched for construction, there are close to 100,000 Kenyans working. There are Kenyans from all over the place. Nobody asks them when they go to those construction sites as quantity surveyors or technicians or electricians, or nobody asks them which tribe do you come from. I was in Homa Bay to launch the same. And this program of housing is going to be in every corner of the Republic of Kenya. We're going to make sure so that we begin to walk away from 3, 10, 20 appointments. We are so obsessed. It's because of this scarcity. We are so obsessed with 10 people or 20 people. You will discover, for example, it doesn't matter. Even if I appoint 20 people from a certain community, let me not mention any community, it will not change the dynamic. People from that community, millions are still on the street. Wengi bado wako kwa dimanga pale. Wananga. How do we, Abdi, instead of arguing about 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 appointments, how do we create the ecosystem that will employ Kenyans in millions, Kenyans in every part?
Right.
How do we make sure that we have a program in Kakamega that will employ 10,000 young people? We have a program in Kwale. That is the program I'm looking for. And that is why, Abdi, I am telling you, and I want to persuade my fellow countrymen and women, please, let us invest our resources in projects and programs that will create 3, 4, 5 million jobs for the people walking in our streets, our own children, our own blood and flesh walking the streets. Don't walk away from them. Don't say, I have a job. How is it my business to bother about the fellows who don't have a job? Right. I mean, surely we have a responsibility, Abdi. You agree with me? We have a responsibility.
Okay. We have a responsibility, yes, we do. Taking you back from that housing element, you have parachuted into that.
Yeah.
And it seems to be
it's because I am very passionate about it.
Seems to be
because I see an opportunity for this country to change.
Thank you. It seems though it looks like a semantic evasion. Final question on this.
Yes.
Because it's still on appointment. You said the expectation from those who supported you during the campaigns, and you have to place them somewhere in your government. Good example. Hypothetically, we are seated here.
Mm-hmm.
Ayub was your supporter, say, for example, during the campaign.
Pardon?
Ayub was supporter. I supported you, your campaigns, by financing, but I have no qualifications. Eric Latif didn't support you, but is a Kenyan like me who expects to serve his country. He has the qualifications. He has the merit, for example, let's say. Between me and Eric in your government, who will you pick?
I will pick Eric.
Okay. But that is not the case in many aspects.
That is the case.
It isn't.
That is the case.
You have made political appointees.
That is the case.
Awarding competency. And
I appointed General Ogola. General Ogola is among the people who went to Bomas to try and overturn my victory. Do you know that? But because when I looked at his CV, he was the best person to be general. I called him and I sat him down. I told him, my friend, you went to Bomas to try and overturn my victory. But because you are the best person to be general, I'm going to give you the job. That is how it works with me. That's why I told you, if a person has the qualification, if he is the best for the job, I will give him the job.
But that is the military. There's a code of conduct for the military and how politics works in Kenya, Mr. President.
Let me tell you, my friend, I had the opportunity. I could have appointed anybody. I had, I think, 10 choices. I didn't have to. You know, there are people who say, oh, you know, William Ruto appointed Ogola because he was the deputy CDF. That's not the case. I made the decision consciously. And I made the decision against the advice of many people. Many people told me, you should not give this, you should not reward this kind of behavior.
Okay.
But, you know, I also must be sensitive. What exercised my mind? This gentleman has a good track record. And in fact, when I spoke to him, and it's not something that I should be talking about, but because you have asked a good question. What exercised my mind is, this gentleman, yes, he may have made a mistake. Maybe because the commander-in-chief that time told him what to do. Maybe he... And when I talked to him, he told me, I have no defense. He told me, I have no defense. You do with me whatever you want. I cannot defend. It was wrong. What I did was wrong. Yeah? I am also conscious. My good friend Ayub, I'm also conscious that since independence, there is nobody from Nyanza who has ever been CDF. And it also played in my mind that I don't want a situation where a whole community think they cannot occupy a certain office. So many things that are part of my system overweighed the mistake he had done.
Okay.
You know? So I want to tell you that I make very sensitive appointments. I make very deliberate appointments. Many of the appointments, of course, that do not have to directly require my signature. Many of these managing directors, I don't know who, they are interviews all over the place. Okay. You know, so, and when a panel decides, for example, I was brought a panel that interviewed the CEO of museum. And just by coincidence, you know, the person who became number one was my classmate. And I never even asked anybody to assist her. So when it came to me, I told my friend, you know, if she's the best, she was a lady.
Okay, so it's safe to assume that according to the president of Kenya, Kenya is a country where all Kenyans are equal before the law. But interestingly, according to his deputy president, it's a shareholding company in which political appointees ought to be the priority for the government.
I think you should not take the sentiments of my deputy out of context.
What was the context?
I think it is fair if you can arrange an interview with him so that you can contextualize. You know, because now we are discussing him, me and you, and he's not here.
Not him per se, Mr. President.
No, because that's what it is.
Okay, not him per se, Mr. President. We are discussing what he said. He's not the subject here, but okay. Let me put it this way. Let me paraphrase the question. What's your interpretation of what a shareholding company means? What do you understand by it?
I think, from where I sit, I think what Rigathi Gachagua is just trying to say is that while it is true that first we must serve all Kenyans equally, we must, to the extent possible, spread appointments across the country. And that's what I have tried as much as possible to do. If you look at my PSS, I think I got PSS from 41 counties. If you look at the CASs, I got CASs, I think, from 45 counties. Every county has a CAS in my administration, even the ones who voted for my opponent. I put them. If it was the philosophy of my deputy, they wouldn't be shareholders. And therefore they wouldn't qualify. But you know, there is an extent to which you must nationalize, you know. Many people thought, for example, the Hustler Fund. Many people thought, oh, you know, this is just going to be for the people who voted for Kenya Kwanza. It is not. Look at the distribution of the Hustler Fund. Every county in the Republic of Kenya equally. You know, you don't have to know nobody. You don't have to know your MP. You don't have to speak to nobody. It is your phone and Hustler Fund. You have your money, you move on. So that is, and precisely, my good brother Ayub, precisely what I was saying. Instead of arguing about 20 appointments, 15, I don't know, this community, that community, why don't we bake a bigger cake? Why don't we create 1 million, 2 million jobs so that everybody has a piece of the pie? And that is what I am asking my good people, the people of Kenya, to help me, you know, invest in these programs. Let us pay our taxes. Let us contribute to the housing fund. Let us, those of us who have a job, let us not hold those who are without a job in contempt. They have not committed any crime. They are not lesser human beings. It is just that they don't have the opportunity me and you have. Let us do something about them also feeling part.
Mheshimiwa, kabla mwelekezi wetu ama kiongozi wetu kumalizia, naomba tukate mzizi wa fitina kwa swali lake Ayub. Kwa hivyo sasa hivi unaweza kuambia Wakenya kwamba matamshi ya naibu wako unayakana na kuyakashifu kwamba serikali yako si kampuni ya hisa?
Haya ni mambo yako.
Kwa hivyo unamuunga mkono basi? Haya
ni mambo yako.
Tuambie.
Nimewaambia, you know, yule bwana ni mtu mwenye ako na anaweza kujieleza. Mbona nyinyi mnakuja kumleta hapa, kumleta kwa mjadala hapa? Mumemuuliza yeye akakataa kuwaona.
Tumeleta maneno yake.
Mbona mnaleta maneno yake na ni mtu mzima?
Kwa sababu
ako na akili timamu.
Wewe ndio kiongozi wa serikali.
Mbona msiende nimewaeleza msimamo wa serikali ya Kenya. Sasa ile imebaki, mtafute, anaitwa Rigiji. Mtafute.
Excellency, we will be concluding our conversation this evening, and thank you very much for giving us this time. But we have to conclude with a conversation about the future generations.
Yes.
Article 53 of the Constitution, every child in Kenya has a right to free and compulsory basic education. The junior secondary school pupils went to school on the 30th of January, and they closed at the end of April. And by the time they were closing, many of them had not received sufficient teachers. Many had not received books. So, by and large, learning did not take place for an entire term. They have opened for the second term. They still have a shortage of teachers. They still have a shortage of books. It has been said that the JSS and the transition of CBC from primary level to the middle level is being bungled. I've not heard you, Mr. President, speak out against this. I've not heard you mention this. Are you aware, Mr. President, that about 1.19 million children in Kenya are not learning, that there's a crisis?
When I came into office, I found a big crisis. That is why I appointed a presidential party to look at education. And by the way, I believe that education is the most important instrument of shaping our human capital and our future. Because the biggest asset we have as a country is the human capital. That is what makes Kenya what it is. And education is the one that sharpens our education, our human capital, beginning with primary school. When I came into office, what did I do? I quickly appointed a presidential party to work on it, and I made certain decisions. I reversed the decision that these kids go to a secondary school, because in a secondary school, there was going to be need to build an extra classroom. When we had already a classroom, we would have a bigger crisis if we had gone that route. We already have a classroom in the primary section. I said they should be retained in the primary section. I also made the decision that it is not necessary to change the uniform. You know, because many of them, we have a problem there of uniform. I don't know how uniform costs, I don't know, 4,000 to 5,000. I don't understand that.
20,000, Mr. President.
14,000, I don't know. So there is a problem there. There is corruption. We must deal with it. And that's a subject for another day. So I made that decision. I also made the decision to hire 35,000 teachers, the largest ever, right? Because there was need. I went ahead because that whole education ecosystem, we are working on refining the CBC to make sure that it is not overloaded. We've agreed on some of the elements. We are working on some of the elements. In fact, the bigger problem there was, and I had to talk to TSC, Madam Nancy Macharia, was that some of the teachers had not even been paid. I asked them, is it a question of money? It was not a question of money. It was a question of forms. They need to fill this, they need to fill this, they have not submitted this, they have not submitted that. And it was a requirement because this is public money. If you have not submitted all the documentation, you cannot be paid public money. So we try to expedite that. There is a shortage of teachers, without a doubt. And I said it in the election, in the election process. We have a shortage of 110,000 teachers. I am going to fill that gap. We used to hire 5,000 GRs every year. I have scaled it up to 35,000. I want to hire another 35,000 next year. But you know, Latif, I also have to operate within a budget. I need the resources.
Yep.
When I try to raise the money, you guys make noise at me. Oh, unaongeza ushuru, unaongeza ushuru. Na wewe ndio huyu, unataka watoto wasome. Hakuna walimu. Wapi walimu, Bwana President? I mean, we all have to balance all these things.
So in the meantime, then, Mr. President, for this year, these JSS learners are definitely not going to be able.
No, we have made an intervention on how, because you know the part of the problem is there are some primary schools that did not have enough students to be able to qualify to be a junior. To create a junior secondary classroom. So we're trying to see how we can put together some of the institutions. We're also identifying teachers that have diploma so that we can post them into the JSS, because we now have a bit more in the primary school. So we want to promote those ones in the primary so that they can cover the gap, and hopefully when we move into this new budget, maybe towards September, we can then be able to hire them.
So what happens to these cohorts?
They will be taught. We have made temporary interventions to be taught. But let me also tell you about the whole subject of education. The crisis you have in CBC, you had the same crisis in our TVETs. Our TVETs were almost closing because we didn't have enough lecturers. I have had to make an intervention in the supplementary budget to hire an extra 1,300 lecturers. They needed 3,000. I could only accommodate with the finances 1,300. I will do another 1,700. We have also change the funding structure of our tertiary institutions, IUP. We've changed the financing structure because we have to be realistic. Our universities, for example, we were giving them 44 billion a year. Yeah? 44 billion was less than 50% the amount of money they need to be able to teach. So we are sending kids there. We've given them half the money. They don't know what to do. They cannot pay the lecturers. They cannot pay bills. They cannot pay NHIF. We have a whole crisis. And nobody was making any decision because nobody wanted to, because it was too big a problem. So when we came into office, I asked my economic team, call the vice chancellors. We sat down with vice chancellors. We told them, gentlemen and ladies, let's have a conversation. You know, we have to be realistic. What's going to happen? So we sat down with them. We sat down with the presidential party. I have had like maybe 8 meetings, 2 or 3 hours in my office here on that one subject. Finally, we came up with a funding model, yeah, where 30% of the students especially those who come from families, about 45,000 students, scholarship fully paid, you know. And we changed the funding structure from giving money as grant to the university to giving money to the student as scholarship, so that we know who and how many. And every student now has to apply for that scholarship. We have a means testing instrument, which has worked for 25 years to determine who can qualify for funding, who does not qualify for funding. 45,000 students will get 100%. That's about, I think, 29% or thereabout. The next group, I think about another 25 or so percent, will get almost 85% scholarship, and part of it will come from loan. They will take a bigger loan, which they can pay later. And the able students, who are about, I think, another 20-something%. My child, Ayub's child, maybe yours has not gone to university. and I mean, those are our kids who go to these academies where we pay 300,000, 200,000. We've now said they must pay a little bit fees in the university, between 20,000 and 40,000 a year. And we've moved the funding from 44 billion to 82 billion every year. The celebration that was here by the vice chancellors was amazing, because they've always wanted to have this conversation. Nobody was willing to listen to them. We have moved the funding for our TVET from 5.2 billion shillings to 10 billion. We will be sure that our kids will go to university, and they will be taught, the lecturers will be paid, the emoluments and all the other things will be paid, and we have it on a sound footing. I can tell the country from where I sit, the mess we found in primary school, in our TVETs, in the universities, is sorted. And what is more, I started the agenda of Open University when I was Minister for Higher Education. When I left, it stalled. Again, I want to tell the people, the great people of Kenya, you will now have an opportunity to go to an open university where you learn online. You don't have to go to anywhere, and it is cheaper. Konza City, we are working on the programs now. We are going to launch that university, I think, in September this year. So we'll admit students in the Kenya Open University, where we are going to increase the chances of people going to university, because it's much more affordable. You know, you don't have to go to there physically. The largest university in India is an open university. The Open University of South Africa is a huge university. I think it has 1 million students. Yeah. So that's the direction we are going. That is the kind of reform, that's the kind of thinking you need in a country for us to move forward.
Mheshimiwa Rais, unapoangalia sekta ya elimu na tushikanishe tu pamoja na masuala ya usalama, unapoangalia eneo la North Rift, bado kumekuwa na changamoto ya usalama, na kuna wale wanafunzi ambao walitarajia kujiunga na JSS, sasa hivi pengine hawana madarasa. Hatima yao ni ipi? Ikiwa wanakutazama sasa hivi wanajiuliza, JSS pengine ni ya mijini tu, ama hatima yetu ni ipi?
Pale North Rift, especially sehemu ile iko na matatizo ya usalama, imekuwa ni ile huyu bwana anaita donda sugu. Anaitwa nini?
Donda ndugu.
Na sugu ni gani?
Ni hilo.
Okay. Kwa muda mrefu na miaka nyingi. Na niliwaeleza wale ndugu zetu wanaoishi North Rift la kwamba kwa vyovyote tatizo hii ya watoto kukosa kwenda shule, mashule karibu 20 yamefungwa kwa miaka 5, 10, mingine miaka 15. Niliwaambia safari hii hili tatizo tutalitatua. Ndio nimechukua hatua ya kwamba pale katika North Rift tutaweka hema ya jeshi permanent. Pale katika North Rift tutaweka camp ya polisi permanent. hawa magaidi na wakora na wezi wa ng'ombe tutapambana na wao, na mimi nataka niwaambie nikiketi kutoka hapa, kwa vyovyote, if it's going to take 10 years, if it's going to take 20 years, they better be ready, because this story of kids not going to school must come to an end. Mimi nimetoa pesa karibu milioni 100, nimepatia jeshi waende wajenge hizo mashule zote ambazo zilivunjwa na hawa wakora, ili tuwarudishe watoto wetu. I'm going to get a report next week. I spoke to actually Machogu this morning. I'm going to get a report next week. Mahali wanajeshi wetu wamefikisha, because our kids must go back to school, and we are going to deal with the challenge of insecurity in the North Rift, whatever it takes. And I have made that commitment as the president of Kenya, that North Rift we must get rid of this insecurity in North Rift, because North Rift
once and for all.
Yes.
Naomba mheshimiwa
Lofty. Tumambua time imeisha. Uliza swali la mwisho.
Naomba tu kuongeza bizari kwenye swali lake Nancy la maswala ya Baringo. Naam.
Okay.
Ni kwamba kuna shule moja inaitwa Ngeleche na nyingine inaitwa Rugus, bado hazijafunguliwa na zinatumika zingine kama vituo vya kuwafunza wale wanajeshi ama polisi wa akiba. Ni miezi mitatu sasa ama 4 katika operation hii ambayo inaendelea, na Wakenya wanasema hawajaona matunda yoyote, kwamba watu wameshikwa ambao ni magaidi na wale majahili katika eneo lile. Ukijibu hilo, ni juzi tu waziri wako wa usalama wa ndani Kindiki Kithure alikuwa katika eneo la mpakani mwa Somalia, Ethiopia na Kenya kukutana na mawaziri wengine, na kuna mpango kwamba eneo ambalo lilikuwa limefungwa kwa zaidi ya miaka 10 huenda likafunguliwa. Ni kwamba katika ukanda huo sasa kuna usalama, mmepambana na magaidi vilivyo kama serikali, ama namna gani?
Ni kweli. Nimeenda by the way mpaka hiyo shule ya Rugus. Na ukienda pale utapata matatizo sana, ukiyaona yale mambo yako vile mambo yalivyo pale. Na ndio sababu niliamua ya kwamba kwa vyovyote, hata kama itanigharimu nini, lazima hii jambo tulitatue. Ni kweli kuna mashule, nafikiri kulikuwa na mashule karibu 20, nafikiri there are almost 5 or 6 schools that are not yet open, because some of them have not been repaired. Wengine wazazi walihama, watoto walihama, so lazima tuweke kwanza usalama wa kutosha, ndio wale watu warudi pale, ndio tuweze kufungua shule. Ile hakikisho mimi nataka nitoe ni kwamba serikali ya Kenya itahakikisha ya kwamba kwa vyovyote tukitumia jeshi la polisi, tukitumia askari wa ziada ama ulisema wanaitwa nini? Akiba. Hawa wote tutawaweka katika hiyo mchanganyiko mpaka swala hili la usalama lipatikane. Pale mpakani tumezungumza na serikali ya Somalia, tumezungumza na IOM, nilikuwa na wao hapa juzi, na tukasema kule kufunga kwa biashara mpakani kuna wafanya magaidi kuona ya kwamba wamefaulu. Ni vipi tunaweza kuhakikisha, unaweza kuweka ya kwamba hali ya kawaida ya maisha inaendelea hata pale tukibambana na magaidi. Kwa sababu kule kufungwa kabisa kwa mpaka makes it look like the criminals have succeeded in blocking people between our two countries, trade between our two countries, and as a result smuggling, and illegal things are going on. It is better we have a formal border where taxes are being collected by Somalia on the other side, Kenya on this other side. Because in the absence of a border point, it means there is nowhere, so you will still find products moving from here to there, but there is no mechanism of checking whether the products meet standards, whether taxes have been paid. So it is good to formalize a place where people who are genuine can go there and be able to present themselves, present their goods, pay taxes, do business, so that we can deal with the criminals outside that formal engagement.
Shukran kwa kukubali bizari yangu kwenye
Asante sana. Mheshimiwa Rais, naona tumetumia muda wa ziada, muda wa akiba zinadi muda wote. Thank you very much for speaking to us this evening, Mr. President. We have not exhausted the list of questions that we had from Kenyans, but we've even extended some time so we can get some more time.
Can you allow me 1 minute?
Yes, please.
You have to get your closing remark.
Okay, before I do my closing remark, wacha niseme tumeondoa ushuru kwa aircrafts, helicopters, parts, engines. Nikasikia kaona watu wengi hapo wakisema unajua huyu president marafiki zake sijui tunasikia hata yeye yako na helicopter sijui katika ile project ya kawaida. Mimi nataka niwaeleze wa Kenya hivi. Tumeondoa ushuru kwa mambo ya aircraft kwa sababu Wilson Airport na Kenya is I think the second or third or fourth busiest airport in Africa. Hii Wilson Airport yetu hii. Na kazi kubwa ya Wilson Airport pale ni repairs, maintenance, and one more. We have a very big ecosystem of engineers and people who work in the aeronautical field who had shifted base kwa sababu wakati tuliweka hii ushuru yote wakahamia Tanzania, wakahamia Uganda. Tukapoteza biashara, tukapoteza ajira. Wilson Airport karibu inafungwa. So the same industry players kutoka Wilson Airport walikuja wakasema, jameni, mbona sasa mnatufanya tupeleke ndege zetu Tanzania ama Uganda? Na hapa ndio tuko na engineers, hapa ndio tuko na specialists ambao wanaweza kutufanyia hii kazi. It was purely because we are protecting our jobs and we are protecting our business. So that's the reason. And every other tax that I have put, it is reasoned out. And by the way, I sat in this room with every ministry, every PS, myself, with my team, to interrogate the budget. Because I have to own up and take responsibility for everything that this government does. Except, of course, the ones that I cannot, Lakini, to the extent possible, I must be able to answer to the people you say, Dayup.
The people of Kenya.
Yes, the countrymen and women.
And women.
I must be able to answer to them when I am called upon to.
What if the ladies and gentlemen in the National Assembly and the Senate do not pass the finance bill? Then what?
We will cross that river when we get there. But I think I have made, and I will continue to make, a persuasive argument. I believe in engagement. I believe in working with people. That's why I'm taking time to explain myself. I don't think there is any other president who has explained himself the way I do, because I want to persuade the people of Kenya. I don't want to impose things on people. I want them to understand. I want them to criticize what we are proposing. But we must all be objective. Is it reasonable? Does it make sense? Because we have a country, my friend, and I want to tell you, Latif and this great team, Eric, Lofty, and my dear sister here, and my good brother, that this country does not belong to William Ruto. It doesn't belong to the president. It doesn't belong to anybody. It belongs to all of us. We are here. We will fly together, or we will crash together. By God's grace, I am the leader today, and I owe it to the people of Kenya and God, who I swore by the Bible to do the right thing for this nation. I must make a contribution. It is not always that you get an opportunity like the one I have to make a difference in a nation. And I want to be understood that whatever we are proposing, we want the best for our country. From where I sit, I understand. Many people criticize, wewe, nani alikuambia ati tunahitaji manyumba? Wewe, wacha hizo. Like for example, this fertilizer thing. Allow me this 1 minute. So farmers were saying, we have used DAP fertilizer for all the years. We will not accept any other fertilizer. I know from where I sit, as the president of Kenya, that DAP is the wrong fertilizer for Kenya. Yet the farmers are asking for it. Did you want me to supply DAP fertilizer to them because they have asked? I said no. I told them, we are not going to use DAP fertilizer, even though you are asking for it. We are going to give you the right fertilizer. It is called NPK, and that's what we are going to supply. Many of them, today, the same farmers, you see them standing in the middle of their maize and saying, oh, this is very nice. You know, this fertilizer is very good. They're the same ones. Because I cannot do the wrong thing because people are asking for it. No, I have to do the right thing. You know, I better be criticized. I better be but I must do the right thing. And precisely why I am telling my countrymen and women, let us have a positive, honest conversation. We want to change our country. It's going to take all of us to change our country. Let us not say, because I am in a privileged position, it's not my business. It's not my responsibility. How is it my business? I mean, that's not how to belong to a nation. You know, a nation, a society is measured by the quality of goods that are available to everybody. It is not measured by what the rich have. No, it is measured by what everybody can access. Education. How are we going to make sure the plan we have to raise to 80 billion becomes, how do we deal with our health? How do we deal with our roads? How do we deal with our water? How do we deal with our electricity? How do we deal? That is what we must do collectively, and that is why we have a government. Okay. It is my plea to the people of Kenya that they listen to what we are saying.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to speak to Kenyans and to also respond to questions. This, of course, goes a long way in entrenching our democracy, and will continue holding you accountable for the words that you say.
By all means do.
And the deeds of your government.
Yes. And continue asking me the difficult questions. It is good. It's good for me.
Good that is our job.
Yes.
Good for democracy.
Yes.
Good for openness and transparency.
No problem.
That's our job. Wewe fanya kazi yako, sisi tufanye kazi yetu. And thank you very much for tuning in to this conversation with His Excellency President William Ruto this evening. Thank you for all the questions that you had shared with us earlier. Unfortunately, we were not able to pose all the questions, but we hope that you've gotten sufficient answers to the questions that we have asked and the answers that the President has given. Asanteni sana. This has been a joint broadcast of several media houses. Have a good evening.